guys, it's Jen here at Check Her Joy. This time I'm reviewing Happily Ever After by Kiera Cass. This is a collection of short stories about the Selection series. So the first three books, The Selection, The Elite, and The One. This is kind of a dystopian bachelor story. The basis of the series is that there is this future country, Ilia, which is kind of all of North America, and the country is restructured, and every time the male heir needs to find a wife, they hold what is called a selection, and they pick 35 women, one from each province in the area, and they all send one girl to compete to become the next queen. So this is a companion to the Selection series, and they all tell the story of Prince Maxon and him trying to find his wife, and they're told from the perspective of America Singer, who is one of the women competing in the selection. So this is a companion to that. It looks at it's a lot of like background information and getting to see like the twist side of it, like getting to see this story unfold through other people's perspectives besides America's. So we see Maxim and we see Aspen, who's one of the guards, and we see some of the other girls who are competing, and the maids all get like their say, and there's a story at the beginning which is about Maxim's parents and how their selection went out and how they fell in love. And there's also an epilogue to what happens after the last book, The One. So if you haven't read the first three books of Selection, you could read this, but I really recommend reading, like, you could read this, it happens chronologically, and it does a decent enough job of explaining it, you could follow it. But I think you'd be missing out a lot on not getting America's perspective and not getting all the events, because you have 3 books worth of events condensed down into one. So clearly not getting the whole story with this. But if you have read the Selection series and you liked it and you want to know more about these characters, then this is an amazing book, and I loved it from that perspective. So this book doesn't really contain spoilers. I mean, this book contains spoilers for those 3 books, so my review is going to contain spoilers for the Selection, the Elite, and the One. If you don't want spoilers for those books, then bye, go read those books and then come back to this review. Yeah, so this book does not contain spoilers for the Heir, which is the 4th book, or the 2nd series, which is actually a duology. So if you've read the Selections books but haven't read the Heir, you could totally read this and I wouldn't spoil anything either. So yeah, there is non-spoilery bit. If you haven't read the Selection series, bye. So having read the Selection, there's such in the Selection series, the characters are just so awesome and so vivid. And I love America, but I also really love characters like Marley and Maxon, and getting to see their perspectives in this book is just so cool. The book starts off with the Queen, which is the story of Amberly and Clarkson, who are Maxon's parents, and how they met, how their selection went down, and how it is that they end up married, because they're kind of these different personalities. Amberly is a lot more relaxed and loving and open, and Clarkson is very kind of closed off and needs to be in control. And like even in the selection, like Clarkson is like trying to get Maxim to pick certain girls, and like he's controlled which girls have even gotten to the selection, and just so much manipulating. So we get to see this completely different side. We get to see Clarkson as a teenager, and he really does change a lot when he grows up, and it's cool to see how Amberly first fell in love with him, and that he's not completely evil and awful, that there is some things that he does care about very deeply. So I love being able to see that. Amberly is such an awesome character, so anytime we get to spend more time with Amberly, I am all for that. The next story is The Prince, and we get to see Maxim's version of what happened. So when he first meets America, and when he knows that he's in love with America, and when he knows that, you know, America's kind of it, and his desire to woo her and win her. And it was just so perfect, because I was like Team Maxim all the way. So to see that is so cool, and kind of that Maxim knew before we start knowing for sure in the books, like before America knows. And Maxim really does try really hard to win. Like, exactly all the effort that Maxon put into winning America, but also trying to, like, keep the selection going because he needs to buy time because she's not on board yet. And the relationship he has with the different girls with Celeste and Marley, and getting to see this other side of him because it's such a complicated thing to, like, have to date 35 girls at once and then try to narrow it down. And what do you do when the girl you do love isn't behind all this? I'd love to see Maxim's perspective. There's also the story of the guard, which is like 100 pages, and it is Aspen's story. And Aspen's a cool character. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong with Aspen, except I was totally team Maxon all the way. So there is 100 pages of Aspen kind of fawning over America, and it kind of hurts because, like, it's kind of a tough thing to read because I was totally for Maxon the whole time I was reading these books, and also knowing that Aspen doesn't get America at the end, just like knowing that that's not how it's going to play out, is kind of a bit much to read all these. And Aspen keeps trying to, like, bargain. Like, he sees the signs that America might like Maxim, but he thinks that, well, she's just trying to be nice, and, you know, it's her duty to, like, do whatever the prince wants, and but she doesn't really love him, but she's gonna say no to him anyway. And just, it was kind of a painful thing to read, and it was not my favorite part of this book, was reading this. And because it's so much of this book, it's kind of like, really? But it is a completely different take on things, and to see things through Aspen's perspective. And we get to see Aspen with other characters like the guards, and how kind of the household staff works, like how the rest of the palace operates. So we get to see the other guards and the maids and the kitchen staff through Aspen's eyes. And the other story in here, which is the favorite, which is Marley's story and what happens to them after she gets sent, out of the selection story, when she and Carter get, like, reprimanded and caned. And there was, like, flashback scenes in there, so it's taking place after the caning or while the caning's happening, but then we get to see flashbacks to, like, when they first met and when Marley first fell in love with him and she didn't mean to, and how bad they feel like they're portraying, these two are betraying Maxim, but they, like, can't help themselves. And we do get to see more of, like, the palace staff also through that story, through getting to see them in the kitchens and working as groundskeeper, and we get to see a different side. Or just more of Maxon, like how completely different he is from his dad, because he goes behind his dad's back to get Marley and Carter, like, protected and safe, and what he does for, like, he really does care about his subjects, and to see exactly how hard he's trying. We get to see Celeste's version of things, so we see when Celeste first appears, when she first meets the girls, and also at the end when she's leaving, and exactly how much the selection has changed her life, what a difference it's made, and why it's kind of okay that America won anyway. And there's an epilogue for after the one, which is like 2 years after the selection, and America and Maxim are married, and how their life has kind of settled down, and them starting, like, how the country is being ruled now, and getting to see more of just how much Maxim is, like, madly in love with America, and how happy they are, and how perfect it all turned out. And we get to kind of catch up on a few other characters and see where they are after this election. And there's also kind of these, like, short blips at the end of, like, what happened to the other woman in the elite, and how their stories turned out, how they grew, and how the selection molded their lives, but also how they lived their lives after it. Like, because the selection changed their lives so much, to be at the palace and get to know these other women that you wouldn't have met otherwise, and then they're in the spotlight and returning back to their lives, and just what guys they pick afterwards, or figuring out that they don't need a man, and it's just so cool to see all of this backstory to what happened in the selection series, and I love it. So if you love the selection series, this is an amazing book to go pick up. If you were not a fan of the selection series, then obviously it's not so great. Yes, it is frilly and ball gowns and royalty and fame and just very girly stuff. Not that a guy couldn't read these books, but like lots of fashion. And I love it. This version of the book that I got at the library, but like if you were looking for the hardcover and stuff, it has like a map of Ilia and where all the districts are and where everything is, which was really cool. And it has illustrations, and then the book has like these illustrations and stuff, and they are amazing, and the art is fantastic. The illustrations in this book are by Sandra Suy, Suy, and they are amazing. I love it. It's very pretty. Lots of wanting to see all the ball gowns. So loving that. So yes, if you love the selection series, definitely read this book. I dug it. Totally dug it, despite the 100 pages of Aspen pining after America. Still like this book. Yeah, check it out. And peace out. Peace out. I love you guys and keep reading. Bye.